Whenever we have a conversation like this, it's a blanket trigger warning if you suffer from PTSD or any type of shocking. But this is shocking as it pertains to a shocking, sick, vile monster. Somebody who's a predator, a child predator. This is what we're talking about. We're talking about Stephan in Osceola County Jail. This jail started in the 90s. It's 32 plus years old. It's a dilapidated building that's not in great shape. And trust me, I don't give a flying F that he's in a place where it's kind of nasty. Jail's not supposed to be nice.
Osceola County leaders are concerned about their jail. Management told us the facility is too small and poses security risks.
The last time it had a big update was back in the 80s. Now, the chief I spoke with, he told me that at this point, they're looking at building a new jail to tackle issues like the growing population here in Osceola County, along with the aging infrastructure. With the growing population here in Osceola County, management says it needs to get ready.
Right now, we have facilities that are aging. We have an aging infrastructure. We have 2 facilities that are over 30 years old and 2 others that are over 20 years old.
I sat down with Corrections Chief Brian Holt. He told me the new jail will help them tackle things like jail capacity, aging infrastructure, and security, 3 issues that have caused problems in the past. Back in 2010, we told you about 2 different incidents when inmates tried to escape the jail by digging a hole. Just last year, we told you about the jail reviewing its security policy for inmates after one of them smuggled drugs and a syringe to a cell.
It's a constant battle. We're always trying to stop stuff coming into facilities, and people are always trying to beat the system. So we are committed to security and public safety.
There's over 900 inmates in Osceola County Jail. I just checked the records. There's over 900. Their capacity is 919. They're at 902. So quarters are tight, and there's a lot of shit that goes on inside that jail, no doubt.
It's 2024. One thing people need to know is more prisoners than not have access to a contraband cell phone these days. And so they are aware of me. I'm one of the top prison creators out there. And from someone who's in there, hearing someone who's been in there, they recognize the authenticity. And so they feel comfortable reaching out to me to bring me information, send me clips, send me material to use, and answer questions and numerous other things. And so that's how I have access to a lot of the information and insight all across different states that I have. And so sometimes that affords me the opportunity to get some insight in things like Stephan Stearns, who's down here in Florida, and what these inmates who are currently in the Florida prison system, what are they thinking about this guy? What's their opinion of this guy? What are they expecting if he shows up there, and when he shows up there, and how's life likely going to be for him? So I've been able to talk to some inmates who are currently in there about that, and I have a lot of information to give on that.
Is it possible, even in protective custody, for Stephan Stearns to be walking to go get a shower or walking to go get a meal and to have that little bit of an opportunity? Is it a possibility?
Absolutely. Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. You're absolutely right about that. It doesn't take but the blink of an eye. And you know what? Mistakes happen. Mistakes are mistakes. And sometimes they're genuine mistakes, and sometimes they're not so genuine mistakes. But they happen. And like you said, it only takes a blink of an eye. I don't care. They call it protective custody, isolation, solitary confinement. You can use any word or any synonym you want to make it sound that this guy is just as singular as it gets and just far away, locked away from any human contact as it gets. There's always a chance. If somebody wants to harm him bad enough, there is always a chance. And that's just a fact. It can happen at the chow when he's getting his tray. It can happen during the showers when he's cuffed up. It can happen if he needs to go get pills at medical. It can happen. That's what people don't realize. That's the thing that's not talked about. But all the inner workings of jail and how many inmates do get these jobs where they get to be around these other type of inmates who are supposed to be isolated.
Right.
If they get paid enough, if they just feel emotionally strongly enough about that, or just anything.
Right.
So if somebody wants to, they can get them. They can. If you use your imagination, there are some very vile possibilities that could take place and do take place.
He is alleged to do heinous things to a poor 13-year-old girl, and maybe God forbid, others that we don't know about. And the charges that he's charged with, and this is the effed up part about this whole thing, is that the charges he's charged with are just what he took pictures of and videos on his cell phone.
A lot of the comments I get are, who are inmates to judge another inmate for doing that? They're in there for their own crimes. I understand that. And I understand that perspective. But if you want the truth of what goes on in prison, you have to understand and acknowledge that these inmates have a wide array of crimes that, you know, we're all more or less in here for, and we're okay. That's part of the lifestyle we live, and we don't really have any bias towards that. And then there's some things that we're just absolutely not okay with. And a lot of these guys, even though it's their own fault they're in there, it's their own fault they don't see their families, it's their own fault their girl leaves them, it's their own fault they don't get to see their children, that hurts them. That hurts them. They don't get to see their kids. They don't get to see their daughter. They don't get to talk to them. They don't get to have a relationship with them. And then they see some guy come in there and who's done something to a little girl, a little boy, something, and it triggers them and it reminds them, and they will get furious, and they will get you for that.
But at the end of the day, somebody like this, I sleep good at night knowing that this is part of the prison justice and jailhouse justice system, and it doesn't necessarily always have to wind up in death. You had done an interview with one of your friends or one of your associates that you have in Osceola County Jail, and I thought it was interesting because he gave some really great insight into, you know, the county jail. Many of our subscribers, followers, and viewers, they all want to know, what's this guy's day-to-day? And you went out and you grabbed your a friend and you interviewed him, and you did it so good because you didn't expose him. He was all covered up, and that's to protect his identity, because contraband cell phones can wind up getting you in trouble. So as it pertains to Stephan Stearns, do these prisoners that are in the county jail, in Osceola County Jail, did they know when he was coming there, hey, we got a pedo coming in here? How do inmates receive somebody like that? Because there is a lot of misconceptions out there. There's some people that think it's a fallacy, it's not true. You know, they're going to welcome him with open arms. Your thoughts on that?
Right. Well, I'll say they probably didn't know as soon as he arrived in the jail. Maybe they didn't know exactly who he is. But once, I'm going to tell you what it is. Inmates, they religiously, I don't care where you're at or what jail it is or what state, they religiously watch that news when it comes on. And a lot of times you'll see somebody on the news, and 2 hours later, that same person you just saw on the news is coming in your cell block. And so people love to watch the news in there. And so there's no doubt, you know, at some point, probably not long after he got there, they're aware of who he is and where he's at. And now they know he's in this jail. And let me tell you something, inmates, you know, they'll spend 6 months, a year, 18 months, 2 years. They're there long enough to know how to maneuver and navigate and get information and make friendly with the corrections officers, and just, they can find out anything they want to find out. That's the point. They know where he is and they know where he's at. Now, as far as his charges, I think a lot of people feel like, oh, well, who are inmates to judge this inmate? You know, what he did is awful, but everyone in there is awful. There's a hierarchy when it comes to criminals in jail and criminals in prison, and some things are not accepted. Many things are accepted. Drugs, guns, robberies, burglaries, murders. You know, there's some things that are over the line, even for these criminals. That's just the way it works. That's just how it is. You know, what Stephan Stearns has done violates. It's crossed the line. These guys don't like him. They don't like what he's done, and they're not okay with it. Right. That's just the facts. And so the thing is, he's going to be held separate. Number one, because he's so infamous. This is a high profile case. That's just one in itself. And when you have an inmate who is at an obvious, much higher risk of being violently harmed than the average inmate, it's their job to protect them. And if they don't do that, if they knowingly and willingly put them in situations where they know they're going to be harmed and beat up and injured and have their bones broken and just severely harmed, they can be held liable. That there can be a lawsuit. They can be sued. They can be huge ramifications for them. That's not worth it to them. You know, they have their own lives to live and families to feed, and they have to do their job. And so Stephan Stearns right now, he's going to be kept away from the inmates who want to harm him. But that may change once he gets down to prison. where there's a huge difference.
Off the screen, the conversation that you had with your buddy, you asked him some specific questions. I don't want to play that. I'm going to link it in the description here if you want to go and watch the full interview. You asked specific questions about Stephan Stearns,
right.
About his care and custody and how he was going to be received. And basically, your guy said that he was going to be made into their bitch, sort of.
Oh, yeah. You know, at first I wanted to ask him, do y'all even know who this guy is? Are you aware of him? Have y'all been watching the news? You know, are inmates already expecting him? And pretty much what he told me, if you listen to the video, they know who he is, they are expecting him, and they don't like what he's done one bit, as you can imagine. And so moving past that, we know they don't like his charges. I said, what is the probability? Because I touched on this a bit already, but one thing people really got to know, you know, again, these people who deserve the most to have something happen to them in prison for what they're in there for, they're the ones who are most likely going to be, they do have a good chance of being protected by the staff to where they're put and housed within that prison in an area with, like, you know, similar charges, people, to where no one's going to attack each other for those charges. But that's not always true. That's not just cut and dry how it works. And so I asked him, you know, what's the likelihood that he does come in general population? And what's the likelihood that he doesn't? And he said, you know, it is possible. Maybe what's more working in his favor than his charges, as far as keeping him out of general population, is his notoriety. This guy is widely covered. He's all over the news. That alone might keep him in, you know, usually it's called protective custody. They have something called PM, protective management, down there. And the thing about that is, you know, they can keep, you know, usually in protective custody, they can keep you there only for a certain amount of time, and then they have to let you go back into Gen Pop. Protective management, they can override that and keep you there as long as they want, even if you're against it. But there is a chance he could go into general population, and basically if he does, he, you know, the inmate, he told me, you know, it's not like kind of how you may think if you've seen the movies and TV shows, like as soon as he sets foot in the cell block, they're just gonna swarm him and just put metal all through his body. It's not necessarily going to be that. They're going to look for, how can we make this inmate service us? How can he benefit us? How can he improve our lives? How can we, like you said, pretty much make him our bitch and find any and every way for him to do what we want him to do to improve our lives. And the second, you know, if you do that, you're fine. But the second you want to even think about having a backbone, having a pair of balls, having a bit of guts, standing up, going against that, we're going to beat you. We're going to beat you into submission. And they will beat him into submission. So what he's going to be doing, he'll probably be washing clothes for the high profile inmates. Any money he gets on his canteen, he'll be given a specific list of what he needs to order for other inmates, and he'll order that, and then he'll take that bag to the inmates, and they might let him keep a Snicker bar and a pack of ramen.
And we know he'll be emailing mommy and daddy to put money on the book.
They will apply pressure to him. Anyone you have, any loved one in your life, you need to get on there and you need to tell them, I don't care what you tell them, but you better tell them something to get some money on your books. And once you do, here's what you need to order. Bring it to me. I might let you have a soup. I might let you have a Snicker bar.